Welcome to MACC Talk, a Middle Tennessee podcast from Mott Haven Arts and Cultural Center in Hendersonville, Tennessee. I'm your announcer, Kennedy Galpin. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at the Park West Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to making the arts available to everyone.
Thank you, Kennedy, and welcome everyone to MACC Talk. I'm your host, John Pitcher. We like to think of the MACC as a cultural town square where we encourage everyone to be their creative best. So, Kennedy, what sort of creative things have you been up to lately?
Yeah, so this week, I've been drawing a lot on Post-it notes. They're easy, they're accessible, you can get a bunch of them. And what I'll draw on them with is like a hotel pen. Because those are also like pretty easy, pretty cheap, pretty accessible.
You mean like a Hilton pen or just something you get at the local hotel you go to?
Or like a crystal Bic pen. Like the cheap pens that don't work that well, but you can get a lot of gradients out of those.
So what are you doing on these posters? Because I could almost see someone doing storyboards on those kinds of things. You can do that. You can draw just about anything on them. It's great. Okay. Well, what have you been drawing, though?
Comic books.
Comic books.
Comic book characters, as per usual.
Yeah. Well, what inspired you to turn to this medium of, ink on Post-it note? You can see that.
It's easy. It's accessible.
Okay.
It's fun.
It sounds very Picasso-like. I could see him doing something like that.
It's a good thing to do whenever you're at work and you just want to doodle really fast. Okay. And that's what I do a lot of.
You have to be very detailed, though, because they're small, right?
Yeah. Can be. If you're mean, you have the tiniest little ballpoint pen you could find, yeah.
Okay, I could see you doing that, though. You're pretty detailed. Okay, well, let's go ahead and introduce today's guest. Ruth Chase is the MACC's Regional Arts Director. She's also curator of the group exhibit Rescued, which runs through August 31st at the MACC's Papillon Gallery. This amazing group exhibition features the works of three visionary artists, Dayo Johnson, Hoppy, Highhat, and Dustin, Headrick. Each of these artists offers a unique perspective on what it means to be rescued. Their show invites viewers to reflect on themes of transformation, survival, and renewal. Ruth is the perfect curator for this exhibit. We're thrilled she's here to talk about it. Ruth Chase, welcome to MACC Talk.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, let's just get started. Why is this exhibit called Rescued?
Well, it's rescued because all of the materials are rescued. They're refurbished, they're recycled, they're upcycled. And the theme also speaks to the artist who all have their own relationship with art rescuing them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I have to admit that this is a wonderful show. I love the theme. I love the art. We have our three different artists in here, Dayo Johnson and Hoppy Highhat and Dustin Headrick. They are very similar in their approach, I think, to art, but they're also uniquely individualistic. They're idiosyncratic. And I guess they're all in one way or another rescued by art.
Yes, they all have their own story about how they were rescued by art. Some of that is in the exhibit, so when you're viewing it, you can take a look and read some of the stories. Dayo is, I really sat down. I think that's probably what prompted me to title the exhibition Rescued, because we got to talking, as you do when you're getting to know an artist. And she was saying how she started making art out of need to bring in a little more income as she was a single parent. And she started selling things, and she never had money from materials. So she found materials, I think it was on the side of someone's house. And that's how she started. And now she's a full-time artist, cut to, and it literally rescued her. It pulled her financially out of a hole and then actually gave her a life where she is an incredible businesswoman as an artist. And she's a full-time artist now.
I find that fascinating, just the idea that art can rescue somebody. How does art rescue somebody? Has art ever rescued you?
Well, actually, I'm only an artist because it rescued me, because of art. And I'll answer the other question first. Art, as you know, I mean, art is used for therapy. We use that modality here for many of the services that we have with our vets and our other programs. And so it allows people to communicate very complicated emotions and process them without having to necessarily use words or have a second party. For me, art rescued me because when I was in my late teens and I didn't know what direction to take in my life, I had an addiction, and I had decided that I was going to apply to art schools as a sobriety program, because it was either that or I was going to have to go into some kind of rehab. Mm-hmm. So I ended up, long story, very short, being accepted to the San Francisco Art Institute. I had no idea what kind of college it was. I barely even drew.
I was going to ask you, had you done art before? That sounds like a fairly prestigious place to go and study art.
Right.
Out in California.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't even say, I've always been very creative and kind of energetic, expressive. I think that's the word I'm looking for. But no, I hadn't. And years later, I look back on my portfolio and I realized that because I was so tortured, as many of us are at that age, but also dealing with some big topics around sobriety and my mental health and all of the things that we kind of rites of passage of that coming of age period, that I really had put all of that into my work naively, and it was probably what got me into the school very easily. But I will say that it worked. A lot of my friends, my peers at the time, did go into sobriety programs, and I finished with a BFA, and I was sober.
Wow.
Never looked back.
That's amazing. And I imagine a lot of creative people have maybe not a story quite that dramatic.
I didn't expect you to ask it.
But in one way or another, art has a way of helping us find ourselves.
I agree. And I will add to that one of the things that I love about this exhibit is that the materials are unconventional. And my hope is that people can look at this exhibit and recognize, especially people who don't have as much exposure to art, that you can make art from anything.
Well, let's talk about Dayo again, because we started off with that. I believe there's an incredible piece that Dayo has done. I believe it's Sitting on the Porch, which is acrylic on a rescued barn door.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that. And that piece is also different for her from the other pieces in the exhibit. But tell me a little bit about that kind of material and that kind of art.
Well, I know she resources her materials from different places, whether it's like a yard that has discarded stuff or people give her stuff. But that particular piece I asked her about, and I said, so is this, who's the guy? And she says, it's a guy from a photo. I said, I know, but who is this guy? And I'm not going to remember the name right now, and I apologize. But she said, it's a guy sitting on the porch. I go, okay, so you took it from a photo? She said, yes, I took it from an old photo. And there's lots of things about this guy, but it's just a guy sitting on a porch.
Okay.
And I said, okay, because her work is very much, and when I say that, in other words, the images that you will see in her work sometimes evoke a time period, maybe during a time when there were slaves or times of struggle or even contemporary times. But the tone of her work always seems to exhibit, it reminds me of James Carey Marshall in a different way for the same reason. It is, she's wanting to express the beauty in life. She's wanting to express it's like, she talk about art heals. Art allows us to have deep conversations. And actually we could get to Hoppy as well with that, but it allows us to have deep conversations with things that kind of don't have to be said, and you get it through the visual, or you can say it in your own way. Like she's repeating history in her own way.
Well, he struck me that the guy sitting on the porch is an older gentleman in overalls.
Yes.
Looks like maybe he would be the archetypal sharecropper from some old black and white photo that she found.
Yep.
And he's just sitting on the porch. What seems unique about him from some of her other works is that he has a face. And
yes.
So many of the other pieces that she does, and are faceless. I mean, I love Anna, the little girl Anna and her chicken.
I love that
There's
one.
Cool Dude. There's just these other pieces. They're all faceless though, and I'm wondering how do I react to something like that? What is the meaning there?
Well, I want to start by saying that Dayo is a skilled portrait artist for painting the portrait to look like the person or a person. And a lot of her work is that, but that's not everything that we have in the show. She has a series called Children of God. And the reason why she leaves them faceless is that people can see it. It's supposed to be anyone. So a lot of times people respond to the work by going, oh, that reminds me of my Aunt Betty, or, it reminds me of Anna who had chickens, right? I mean, and so it just gives people a chance to identify themselves in the work. And in my mind, I went to like a mirror, right? It's an empty space, but it could almost be a mirror, right? You're looking at it. And so people have a lot more opportunity to envision that this is like somebody they know.
Okay.
Right?
And all of this work, or her work, is done primarily on some kind of wood.
Yes.
So that itself is being given a second life, I assume?
Yeah, it's all recycled. And in most of her works, so one thing I loved is when early on, a patron said, "Oh, Dayo, would you frame this piece for me? I need it framed." And she said that she didn't have money for frames. So the best she could do was take apart the frames that she had and put them together. And now all of her work has what's called patchwork frames. So there are pieces made of different frames of different sizes, and they're almost patched together like you would see in a quilt.
Okay. We're speaking with the MACC Regional Arts Director, Ruth Chase. We'll be back after this important message.
The Park West Foundation is a strong supporter of arts education. The arts foster creativity, critical thinking, and emotional expression. They also enhance communication skills and cultural awareness while boosting confidence and collaboration. Students engaged in the arts often perform better academically and develop lifelong appreciation for diverse perspectives. This message was brought to you by the Park West Foundation, a champion of arts awareness and education since 2006. For more information, visit their website at parkwestfoundation.org.
We're back with Ruth Chase, curator of the exhibit Rescued, which is on display at the MACC Papillon Gallery through August 31st, 2025. Well, you mentioned Hoppy Highhat. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about her work. I think the thing that strikes me most, she seems to have a good old-fashioned mix of American nostalgia with absurdity.
Yes.
How would you describe this work?
Well, first off, I would describe Hoppy, who is AKA Heidi. I would describe her as if she were a country music singer, she'd be singing songs about love and heartbreak.
Okay.
And they would be sung in a very upbeat way.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah. She just totally reminds me of that cliche you hear about country music. Yeah, I mean, her work is often has to do with heartbreak and love loss. So she's very witty. I know that for her, it's similar to like the way a comedian will take some pretty intense stuff and they'll roll it out in a more humorous way. And she really has a way of taking some heavy issues and putting a bright spin on them. And I guess that's something that Dayo does too. But the most of her work is about love and heartbreak. And then some of it is about commentary, like Americana commentary.
Okay. Well, on the heartbreak issue, there is one work that she's done, which I don't think I noticed it first, or didn't necessarily have an immediate impact on me, but it's a work called Honey Don't. And it's a bunch of charging horses.
Yes.
And I take it, from the subtext of everything, these are not charging stallions, these are mares. And
yes.
I think they're saying he's not worth it. Don't, he's not worth it. And,
yeah.
I have to say that
oh, wait, I got to say the last line.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the last line is the other horse, right? Who says, "But I love him."
Yes, well, the degree to which that work has resonated with all the women I've been with who have seen it at the same time makes me think that she's maybe touched on something that at least is a shared experience.
Yes, she calls it the painful realities of shared experiences.
Okay, right? There you go.
Yeah, that piece makes us all laugh.
But it is definitely funny. And then some of them are a little bit, maybe a little bit more loaded or asking more questions. There's one in particular called Choice. Yep. Which is, it shows Jesus sitting behind what appears to be a shell game, of 3 cups, and that's your choice. Of course, a shell game is a confidence game as well. What do we make of that particular piece?
Well, I can only tell you the conversations that I had with a few people, including Hoppy. I asked her what that piece meant to her because I had a thought. And in the back, it says choices, but it's like a blue neon sign or a pink one, if I remember right. And the cups are those party cups that you drink alcohol out of in front of him, right? They're the red, whatever the brand name is.
Right.
And there's 3 of them. So I said, gosh, when I look at this, I think of like, okay, you have to choose, like, which Jesus are you going to choose, right? There's lots of different kinds of Jesuses. And then, or actually that's what she said. And she goes, well, maybe that's what it means. And then we were talking and it's like, well, it could also be 3, like, which religion are you going to choose, right? There's Jesus, and he's like, choose one, right? And then several other people said, oh, no, I don't see that at all. I see it as Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. I'm like, so, I mean, and I've heard several others.
Well, and I think that must make her really quite pleased because artists love it when there's so much that you can take out of a piece. I look at that and, as somebody who grew up Catholic, I'm thinking, okay, so City of God, St. Augustine, it's like free will. You have a choice.
Yeah.
You can pick something there. Or, the Trinity. Or, of course, there's also the whole idea of the confidence game,
Yes,
And,
I didn't even think of that.
Well, that's the 3 cups.
Right.
And usually it's some kind of fraud going on. But, of course, then I think about, as a Catholic, I think about the Reformation.
Yeah.
And the idea of, well, where's the indulgence?
Right.
Under which cup here, and give us the money first.
Yeah. So, I love it.
So there's so much possibility in a piece of art like that. And yet it's so simple, which is what really blows me away.
That is her work, though. Her work brings, the titles are almost as engaging as the pieces themselves. So, very clever, very witty. And, I think, this is me thinking as an artist, I think Hoppy has a very natural way of understanding contrast and tension. And when she pulls these pieces together, I almost think she's not thinking about them as hard as we do, the viewer, or even of her own work until I just think she's naturally has this way, like I said, of creating tension and contrast with what you're looking at and then how you're taking it. So like the piece that's, forgive me, the title, the Coons, Can You Coons?
Oh, yeah.
Right? So there's a picture of the classic Coons balloon dog that is sold as an item you can get in a gift store, particularly a museum, is it bright red, and it's sitting next to your very classic kind of dingy, stale still life. And, I ask her a lot of times, like, how did you really think this through? And I think she just so naturally puts this contrast together. And then she just finishes it. The cherry on top is always the title.
Right.
Yeah.
And unlike you, she's also largely self-taught. Am I correct in that? Or
yeah. So Heidi, or Hoppy, we're calling her by both names. She had a 30-year, very, very established and well-known stained glass business.
Okay.
And I think her parents were painters or artists of some kind. Maybe they were teachers. I can't quite remember. But she had no interest in picking up a paintbrush until 5 years ago.
Okay.
And she just started painting. In fact, this is her first show where she's actually selling the originals.
Wow.
She normally, that has not been something she's done before.
And tell me a little bit about her process. I mean, obviously you've mentioned her picking up a paintbrush.
Yeah, so you think, okay, we're looking at paintings. How is this recycled? Well, she goes to estate sales and dumpsters and thrift stores and whatnot, and pulls out lithographs. So lithographs are like very popular in the 60s, 70s. They were printed on like a type of board and framed as, high art or art for the middle class, I would guess.
Okay.
As my memory goes there.
So that's what we see at the Brady Bunch house.
Yes. And so she takes them, and for the painting Love Sucks, I think she painted out almost 2/3 of it. Mm-hmm. And her ability to seamlessly color match the background. So she just reconstructs what's there, and then and that's her process.
Okay.
She's a very good painter.
Okay. We're speaking with the MACC's Regional Arts Director, Ruth Chase. We'll be back after this important message.
The Park West Foundation reminds us that the arts help build well-rounded communities. They foster creativity, inclusivity, and cultural understanding. They bring people together through shared experiences and support for local identity. Art programs promote education, economic growth, and emotional well-being. Interested in expanding your own creative horizons? Registration for the MACC's Fall Art Classes is now open. Go to monthavenarts.org/classes for more information.
We're back with Ruth Chase, curator of the exhibit Rescued, which is on display at the MACC's Papillon Gallery through August 31st, 2025. Well, tell me a little bit, we have a third artist here. Tell me a little bit about Dustin Headrick's art. What's the significance of music in his work? He is himself a musician.
Yeah, well, most of his work it comes from his history and the heritage in his family with the music world. And I can tell you a little bit more of that. But also he's a musician. So, and actually he's playing here at Monthaven this month as well. His grandfather is Ed Hamilton. He was a radio DJ and music industry hitmaker for his entire life. He broadcasted in like Louisiana in the 40s and 50s, the Grand Ole Opry, 60s through the 90s, was the voice of the Nashville Speedway for like 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And so some of the works in the exhibition came from some of his grandfather's speakers and some of the equipment that he had. So Dustin uses instruments that are deconstructed and or would go, be expired, and works with them to turn them into artwork.
Right. Well, the title block descriptions of his works next to his works, I think, describe them, and I think this is fascinating. I'm not sure I've seen this often, but describes his works as assemblages.
Yes.
As opposed to acrylic on canvas or something.
Right.
They're assemblages.
Yeah. Or some people say assemblages.
Or assemblages, yes. They are that. But he has one that's Transcendence, which I guess the title itself is really very descriptive of what he's done.
Yes.
He takes what looks like a spinning wheel or a loom and combines it with what looks like an auto harp.
Yeah.
And just creates something that is just a mix of whatever, but it's nothing in particular. There is no such thing as an auto harp loom.
No.
But it is
because it had not transcended.
It is a very beautiful piece of three-dimensional work.
Yes.
So that seems to be what his knack is, his skill is.
Yeah, he often uses string instruments, like the two of pieces that we have in the exhibit that are hanging. You can play them. They're meant to be touched, not by the public when they're in the gallery or the museum, but they are. He has had pieces that are a little bit more user-friendly when we were introduced to his work, 3 years ago. But where he'll use horn antlers and leather and then found pieces and copper ornamentation. It's, it is an assemblage.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What do you hope people take away from this exhibit of rescued people, rescued works, rescued inspirations? What do you hope people get from it?
Well, I think, the one thing is the materials, right? That the materials are unconventional. Many of the materials don't cost much money. So I hope that if people are creative, maybe they'll take away from the show some inspiration for other ways of making things. Other than that, I think we're all rescued by something, and often our creativity, whether it's cooking or building relationships, our creativity can often take a bad turn and turn it into a better turn. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I said that right, but yeah.
Your title here is Regional Arts Director. I think of you sort of as our liaison with the artistic community. You're our State Department. But tell me a little bit about that role and what you do.
So I'm the Regional Arts Director, and I do two things primarily, which means I do a lot of other things. But primarily, I curate exhibitions or work with our team here to curate exhibitions for our local art. We have a gallery, which is just another gallery within the museum that is called Papillon. And that's often where we have our regional local art. The other thing that I do is I facilitate a program that we have here called Meet Me at the MACC. And that is a program that brings together local artists to enhance or inform them, that helps their professional practice or their craft or their hobby in the arts. So we will have guest speakers talking on the subject. We will have artist talks. We're going to have one coming up here with the current exhibit artist. And then sometimes we'll have critiques or a theme, like let's talk about social media and how to use it for artists. So those are the two primary things that I find myself doing here at the MACC.
Well, and you work with local artists. So in this particular exhibit is in Papillon. So tell me a little bit about our Papillon gallery. You're sort of instrumental in helping set that up. What is the mission of this gallery?
Well, the mission of the gallery is to support our local art community and give them a place to show their work. And there's a couple of ways in which we do that. We have curated shows such as Rescued. A lot of times I find artists just because they're involved in Monthaven. So that is, that's a benefit. We really do we consider ourselves a family here, and we do like to create settings for people to come together. I think we're unique that way.
Well, can I cut in?
Yeah.
Well, because you were mentioning our local artists, and one of the things I keep hearing over and over again from artists throughout this region, not just here in Hendersonville, but just throughout Middle Tennessee, including some fairly prominent visual artists, is just the lack of opportunities to show their work, to have shows like this. There just doesn't seem to be quite enough space.
That's right. There isn't a lot of space. And also, one of the things I love so much about Papillon is we will show people late stage career, but also people who have never shown before. And the Meet Me at the MACC is one of the areas in which we can give artists the support they need. Many times I come across an artist who has wonderful work, but they may not have any career skills, right? Such as putting your name on the back of your work, or how do you wire your work. And so that's my role here. In fact, it's not uncommon for me to spend a little time at the end of one of our Meet Me at the MACCs with an appointed consultation. We're talking about stuff. Hey, Ruth, I just wanted to ask you something. Now, in fact, I had somebody who attends our stuff regularly. She says, I think she was applying to the Coop. She says, I'm applying to submit my work for a whole show. How do I do that? What are they looking for? And I think, wow, that's so great. She's barely even ever shown before, and she's trying to tackle this. So I told her, I gave her a few tips.
What did you tell her for the Coop? The Coop is this small gallery in the packing plant in Wedgwood, Houston, Nashville. Right. Tell me about what did you tell her to do?
Well, she said, well, what are they going to want to know? I said, they're going to want to know, what are you showing? So what are the items you're going to show? Are you going to show 10 paintings? And then are you going to have audio? They're going to want to know what you need. What do you need? I need hangers. I need pedestals. I need, right? Because she's sending them a package of what she would have. And then only submit your best work. Don't submit more work than you, don't submit everything just because you have everything. It is better to go through and look and really only submit your best work. They want to know what's the purpose of the show. They might want to have an artist statement. I don't know what the proposal asked for. Sometimes they ask for budget. What's it going to take?
Well, and finally, I'd like you to speak a little bit about your own studio and your own work as an artist, because you are also an amazing creator. But maybe segue from the idea that I guess it's important for artists to build relationships.
Oh.
For instance, like maybe the first thing you might want to do if you want to show at the Coop is go to the Coop and see what they're doing and meet the people who run it.
Right. Well, that's also, yes, that is very, very important. This particular question she was filling out the form and wanted to know what they're going to expect, because she wasn't sure what the questions, what it meant. But yes, you and I have talked about this before, and we can actually speak firsthand from being here at Monthaven. When people come and develop a relationship with us, they are the people we remember the most. So when we have a call to artist, which we will have for our holiday show, small work show, so watch out for that, there are names going to be popped up with the people that we see regularly. And and even, we saw Dayo around here, and it was then I asked to look at her work. So she didn't even come asking for a show. It was because I saw her here, I got to know her, and then I said, hey, let me see your works. And it was, and I thought, oh, this is great. I have a show for her.
Wow.
Right?
We're speaking with the MACC's Regional Arts Director, Ruth Chase. We'll be back after this important message.
The Park West Foundation reminds us that the arts help build well-rounded communities. They foster creativity, inclusivity, and cultural understanding. They bring people together through shared experiences and support for local identity. Art programs promote education, economic growth, and emotional well-being. Interested in expanding your own creative horizons? Registration for the MACC's fall art classes is now open. Go to monthavenarts.org/classes for more information.
We're back with Ruth Chase, curator of the exhibit Rescued, which is on display at the MACC Papillon Gallery through August 31st, 2025. Well, tell me a little bit about your work. Your work has been described as sort of inquiry-based and community, filled with community engagement, but there's also a sort of a signature style that I've noticed with a lot of your works. I mean, if I were just walking down an alley blindly in Beijing, China, and I just saw one of your paintings just sitting there, I would say, that's Ruth's work.
Oh, good. Well, school paid off then.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, John. Years ago, not that long ago, about 5 years ago, I used to do a lot of community engagement work, public engagement work, and I worked with grants. Recently, I've been building my own private series, and it really has a lot to do with the electromagnetic fields and how they shape our environment, and how they impact our lives daily. So,
well, to me though, when I see them, I'm almost thinking of emanating spirituality when I see your works, that this is just it's spirit, it's the force, it's however you want to describe it, but it's sort of more of like an inner essence of the person that I'm looking at, as opposed to just simply a drawing or a portrait of somebody.
Yes.
You seem to be capturing something that goes a little deeper.
Yeah. In fact, I just secured an art exhibit coming up.
Wow. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I am exhibiting at Mod Fellows in October, I think it is. And that is going to be a series that is called Into the Field. Mm-hmm. And the field, for me personally, is that place where, you're right, it's spiritual. The field has a lot of things that we don't see, whether it's electromagnetic wavelengths or native EMFs, non-native EMFs, but also the way in which we might communicate. It might be the dream time. So I started this series called Into the Field, and it started with a dream where this little boy had come to me, and he had something to share, and I won't reveal it now. But I kind of woke up out of shock, and when I woke up, I thought, "Oh, this did not feel like a dream. Mm-hmm. This felt like reality." Mm-hmm. So I started a series based on him called Into the Field. So it's going to be at Mod Fellows in October, and thank you for asking.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I really appreciate your joining us here today on MACC Talk. This is an amazing show. I encourage everybody to come see it. On our way out, could you mention we have an artist talk for this show? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I have 2 dates. One, we have an artist talk on August 10th from 3 to 5, and that will be with all 3 artists talking about the exhibition. And we love it when you come and participate in these conversations, because we consider our art talks more like a public conversation rather than a lecture. And then the other thing is Dustin, Headrick, has a band called the
Tolleson Experiment.
Right. And that's on Saturday, July 26th at 6 p.m.
Okay.
So the artists are pretty busy here.
Wow.
And they're free events.
Okay. And coming to see the Papillon Gallery is free. So people are encouraged to come and find out how art might rescue them.
That's right. And if you want to connect with me because you're a local artist, then you can meet me at the MACC.
Okay. Ruth Chase, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, John. It's always great to talk to you.
You've been listening to MACC Talk from Mont Haven Arts and Cultural Center. Our mission is to educate, elevate, and encourage our community through the transformative power of the arts. If you're interested in transforming your creative life, check out our website at monthavenarts.org. Our guest today was Ruth Chase, curator of the exhibit Rescued, which is on display at the MACC Papillon Gallery through August 31st, 2025. Our podcast music was written by Nashville composer Christina Spinay. I'm Kennedy Galpin. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.